Get stacked.
Triple threat.
Expected value. Now take what you learn, go out there, and get stacked.
Yo, this is Charlie for Grips.com making part 2 of the 25-50 session that I played. And I'm just going to skip through and skip the intro and get through the rest of the hands. I'm quite hungover at the moment, so do excuse me if I sound tired at any of these points. I'm still recovering from the frolic that I had of celebrating this. I decided to 3-bet Jack Sam suited on the button. It's a good hand to 3-bet. It's not quite strong enough to call, so there's not much value in calling, and it's just about the bottom of our range for that. And I decided to not c-bet. I think this connects with too many of his hands, and there's still a decent chance that we could check down and win, but we have a lot more hands with a club in that we can decide to bet, and worse hands as well that have no shadow value. Say if we have like King Deuce suited, something like that, and then we would decide to bluff that instead of when we actually have showdown value. Here with King 10 suited, definitely raising up. Oh yeah, that's the hand I remember. Top Doll had just sat down, and Top Doll was a fish from what I remember. I didn't know that straight away, but it became quite apparent through I think earlier hands. Oh no, that's how I knew. As soon as Top Doll sat down, other people sat down, and these regs have this thing called a script, which means that as soon as a fish sits down, they sit down with him. And that's what happened to me at first. That's why regs just sat down straight away, because they didn't have any hands against me, so their script was like, yes, play against him. And yeah, that didn't turn out too well for them. So we call a small 3-bet. We had suited Broadway in position deep, and we flop top 2 pair quite deep, which is very good. And promisingly, the fish c-bets. We go straight away for a raise against the fish. There's nothing we can do apart from this. He calls, and we expect his range to be aces. He could still have kings, but I expect fish to get there, and there's only one combination, so not really. And then ace king. King Queen, I don't know what fish is c-bet, to be honest. And when he leads out, that's really good. He only has 3.6k behind. I snap jam. Don't want to slow roll him or anything. And I think he leads out there thinking that we have a pair a lot, so we're just sweating, not getting rivers, and I win the biggest pot of my life at that point so far. Still at this point, actually. 25k pot, and you can see straight away that he should not be stacking off there with ace king. I think most people wouldn't, but I would never have a worse hand. And also very happy that we stacked off on the turn, as by the river I imagine he wouldn't have stacked off, as that is a scary looking card. So yeah, that was fun. That was more than fun. It's like a tournament bink in one hand. I was very happy at this point. So yeah, as you can see, it's getting a fuller table. We get aces. I will say at this point, I ran pretty well. And no, I'm not even going to pretend I ran extremely well. And I'm so happy. I'm not even ashamed of it. I'm so happy it happened at this point when I was playing 25-50 and not when I was playing, 2-5 zoom when I usually play. So we get 4-bet. And we obviously 5-bet. We're trying to get it in against the fish. He's 6-bets, so at this point I think he has kings, obviously. What else can he have? And he calls, and I think it's more fun if we show known cards at this point. No? Yeah, so that happened. So we're getting free rolled, and the turn is disgusting. And at this point I can unashamedly say my heart rate was going, and I'm quite happy that happened. I was really enjoying it afterwards, not at the time. That I don't usually, I don't know, I kind of pride myself on being a bit stoic when I'm playing. I don't let emotions get too involved at the time, apart from happiness. My heart rate does not usually go up in any pots. Like if I'm bluffing, my heart rate will stay the same. At this point, I was loving it and also hating it, and it breaks off the river. So, that was a 12.5k sweat for a 25k pot that could have gone horribly wrong. I mean, it's annoying, obviously, that he had aces, but I'm not complaining because I'm still, at this point, about 17k up, which is a hell of a lot of money to me. Definitely raising 10-8 suited. We're deep with 2 players, and it's just in my raising range. Bit of a tight fold here when someone leads into us, but I don't imagine he's fucking around too much. And sorry, he's messing around too much. And I imagine he'll be leading a king or a flush draw or a combo draw or something like that, or a set. And he's going to be double barreling that so often, and we'd just be folding the turn anyway. So I decided to fold the flop and save myself a bit of money. Raising 5-6 suited. Definitely when we're deep, we can be raising a lot of hands, especially when top dollar's deep as well. And this is where the fish dynamics come in. That we sorry, I just raised those queen and c bets normal. This is where the fish dynamics come in. We just want to be getting at any pot we can, any excuse we can find to gain a pot with top dollar. We want to be doing that. So that's going to be a thing, the recurring theme across. And as you can see, more people sitting down. And as the fish sits down, the thing to note is that the regs that are sitting down as well, they're not the regs that were confident enough to play me three-handed reg versus reg. They're regs that will be bum hunting, as they call it, the fish, and we can infer that they're going to be probably, not definitely, but probably slightly weaker players. I was kind of asking people at this time who they all were, but I wasn't really sure. But we're also hoping that any pots that top dog gets in, he is going to be winning against the other regs, otherwise the game will break. So raise jack 10 suited, it gets through. I'd usually fold here with king jack. It's definitely behind a normal opening range from mid position 9-handed, I think. Pretty sure. Yeah, like 90% sure about it. And the difference is that Golovores is going to be having a weaker range because top dog here is in the big blind. So we're now less behind of Golovores' range, whatever it's called, because he has a weaker range, and also we're finding an excuse, as I said, to get a pot with top doll. And here, when Golovores c-bets, the fish dynamic here is that he would be c-betting all of his value hands, and if he had a flush or a set or top pair, top kicker or an overpair, he would definitely be c-betting, whereas I don't think he'd be bluffing too often because there's a fish in the pot on a coordinated board. So we can imagine that he's going to have a lot more value hands, and this makes it a lot easier to play when we have position against the reg. Even if we're out of position to the fish, it doesn't really matter because the fish are a lot easier to play against. Here with ace queen, I started to check. I thought it was a board that he was going to be betting out a lot when check to, and I want to play pot control when we're this deep. So if he has something like jack 10, we're pot controlling and losing less. Okay, this is again breaking. I'm just going to wait and pause. Yo, okay, and quick break for me anyway. That was good timing by Holder Manager. Going back to the hand, we pot control, so if he does have something like king jack, he can't just bluff us off. And when he raises the turn, I decide to call. And the river's obviously brilliant, gives us the nuts. There's a choice between betting and checking here. I decide to bet. I think a lot of the time, if he has a small flush that he decides to raise a turn on, then he would be checking back. Sorry, not checking. He'd be betting, but then he wouldn't be calling it a check raise. So we're only getting one bet the value. And if we make it a big bet ourselves, we definitely make sure it's a big bet, whereas he might bet like 2/3 or half. So we're maximizing value against a flush. I don't think too many of his bluffs will carry on. Maybe if he adds like the king of hearts, but the problem is not many of his hands that have the king of hearts and don't have showdown value, so I imagine they'd all be checking back. So I don't think he's going to be bluffing this river too often at all. And we also want to be maximizing value against a 10. So if he bluffed with something like 9-10, then I imagine a lot of the time he's going to be calling the river, as I don't know, we don't have too many bluffs ourselves, but I don't know, probably only getting value out of flushes. It's close between betting and checking, but I decided to bet and he snap folds. So actually no, I can't remember how quickly he folded, but I may have been wrong to do that. I remember this hand. I decided to c-bet. Important thing about this is that we have blockers to the hands that we would not be able to make fold by the river. So if they have king queen or ace king, then they would probably just call us all the way down 3 streets, as they are obviously strongest hands in their ranges, apart from sets. And the fact that we have blockers to them means it's less likely that happens. So in the long scheme of things, if we want to be triple barrel bluffing on this board, we want to do it with the hands that we have blockers to. So ace queen is a prime example of something that I would want to be betting. But when we get 2 callers, I think it's too likely that we could get called in the river. But that does mean that I can bluff the river, as it looks like we can have ace king, aces, and king queen a lot. And for the same reason I said before, we have blockers to the hands that will call. But we get raised, and there's nothing we can do about it. I think he might be bluffing there a decent amount, but we don't have a hand that can do anything about that, because we don't beat a load of his bluffs. Not that, man. Oh, checking here. So yeah, he just checked. We bet the hand that I think, for obviously reasons, we should be betting there. Sorry for the clicking noises. Like I said, I was trying to get in as many pots as I can with fish, but I'm also not going to be opening junk, as there are still 7 other players that are going to be around. So I limp here just to try and entice top doll into the pot again. I get very small raise by acids, and at this point I think he's raising small with a lot of his weak hands that he wants top doll to call with. But he still wants the pre-flop aggression, so I expect he's not got a very strong hand very often. I imagine if he had aces, he'd go a bit bigger. And go for a limp raise. It's a bit of an unusual tactic, but I think it works quite well against regs, especially when there's a fish involved. And it's a good hand to do it with. I mean, we can still rep aces and kings, and it means that we're hitting a lot of boards as well. Jack 10 suited, obviously. I think it's better than limp calling, because a lot of the time we're just going to be check folding. And it's better to play with the aggression against what I see as a weak range, but again, I just think he's folding enough of the time. Ace king suited, obviously playing. I decided to go for a small 3-bet here, and this is where I think it's quite interesting with fish dynamics. The fact that I don't need to be playing GTO, I don't need to be playing balanced pre-flop, is brilliant. It means I can be a bit more creative and a bit more intelligent in the way that I play against this person. So I decided to go for a small 3-bet at ace king suited, because I basically want to have his entire range in the pot. And if anyone does want to cold 4-bet bluff me, it looks like I'm weak when I go smaller here. So if under row, for instance, wants to 4-bet bluff here, I'm very happy to get it in. Or if he wants to 4-bet, I'm very happy to get it in, because it looks like I'm weak. But again, it does happen. I decided to c-bet big just to fold out a lot of the stuff by the river, and all goes well. Get ace king again, and this is where I said starting to run well. I don't play 9-max too much, but I'm pretty sure it's standard to just flat there with ace king. And it goes, he c-bets, we call, obviously. There's no point raising, we have better hands to raise, and we're not getting value from much. And when he check calls turn, I expected him to have ace 10 and ace queen a lot, and that's basically it. Maybe ace king. Wouldn't mind seeing a smaller bet on the river there. Oh, I think I went bigger because I think some people in this spot level themselves into thinking that I wouldn't go big with ace king or ace queen or ace jack or whatever, just because there is a 4 to a straight out, even though it is the deuce. I think they sometimes level themselves into thinking they're cool, but I think I would, in hindsight, prefer a smaller bet just to give ace 10 and ace queen a better value to call. But I don't mind my sizing there. I know I had reasons for it, and as long as I have reason, that means I'm still thinking, which means I should be still playing well. Not defending that. And now there is a fish involved, we do need to be very aware of the fact that we don't need to be reg battling too much anymore, as the whole point in the table now, like everyone is here just to take money off top dog, poor top dog, as he is a fun player. But I So that means that I'm not looking to 4-bet bluff, 5-bet bluff the regs too often, but I will still be looking out for those spots if need be. So we flop awesome. I decided to slow play because I think when someone raises under the gun, I'm never going to get it against worse. I think if he has queens, he's just flatting, and if he has aces, he's getting it in. If he has ace king, he's just flatting a 3-bet. So I think I prefer a slow play there. And 3-bet just aces and a few bluffs. Checking back on the queen here, I think that it's slightly better to check back than bet. Because if he does have something like hearts, I think a lot of the time he's going to be check folding if I bet big or if I bet 2/3 or anything. And it looks like I can still be bet off. It looks like I could have 10 jack or ace king or something, so he might decide to bluff the river, and we're going for a bet on the river, but once he checks, I don't expect him to be calling too often. Definitely playing nines. And fold in. Nothing to see here, folks. No, looks like I played that one. Yeah. What was that? King 6. Sorry, there's a little thing down the bottom that turns green if I've won a pot and red if I've lost a pot, so I'm just trying to... I imagined I wasn't playing it, but turns out I was. So here with King 6, we'll hasher. I expect him to be opening almost all buttons. And I go for a bet on the end, so I'm not a massive fan of it, to be fair. But I'd probably rather check, actually. But I decided that it was less likely he was going to bluff at it. And if he did have something like ace deuce, he would definitely be betting 2/3, and I'd probably end up calling because he can still bluff quite a lot. So it's a blocker bet. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not a fan of it, if that makes sense. I don't hate it. What? Oh, okay, so 3-bet, we call, we flop set, we're running good, it's good. I decided to check back here. I'm just gonna spoiler alert that. I knew that I had the best hands, say 95 to 99% of the time. But sometimes I want to be balancing my range and not always be betting my sets. And a lot of the time I'm going to be betting this. I'd like to point out that 95% of the time I'm going to be betting my 3 set. It's just I do want to have an uncapped check back range. And I think this is a good time to uncap it. Because sometimes he's going to have 10s and queens that he's going to be check raising here, and obviously I can't afford a set in a 3-bet pot, and we are 17,000 deep, and I just don't see myself being too happy about getting bottom set in for $17,000. But equally, most of the time I'll be betting for value, and he checks again, so we're just very confident we have the best hands, as all his 10s and queens be betting, and he check folds. So no value to be found there probably, which I think is fine. But yeah, again, most of the time I'm going to be c-betting. Here with 10-7, we 3-bet. Again, the fish, we're 200 deep, and it's a hand that we don't really want to call, and we want to try and isolate the fish, but the 2 regs here don't want to let us. We check around because there are loads of people in the pot, and once I check around again, I think this is the thing again, is that if OTB or Undo, these 2 players, had a value hand, I expect them to be betting it so often, because the fish, the target in the pot, is going to be calling a lot more often, say if he has a queen or a 5. So by that logic we can assume that they don't really have anything. I don't know what they have, just like random pairs, but pocket pairs, but I imagine they have nothing. And top doll, if he had an ace, he'd bet it. He's a fish, he's a fun player, I'd like to say. I'm trying to replace the word fish with fun player, so but a bit more PC. I got that off Joe Ingram, if anyone wants to. Definitely worth watching, by the way. I remember at the time I was watching the Joe Ingram live stream for the first time, and I was on it, and he was cheering me on, being nice. So very big fan of him, and he was watching live as I was playing my first 25k pot, the King 10 one, and congratulated me on that. So felt like I was going to subscribe and enjoy his live streams a bit more. Here with the queens, someone 3-bets fish. We're ahead of his range by far, but we definitely just want to get in a pot with the fish. And if we do decide to 4-bet and then we get 5-bet, like we never know where we are. We don't know how often it's 5-bet bluffing, and I think queens is just not quite strong enough to get, well, it's definitely not strong enough to get in, so for those reasons that's happening. King 10, it's definitely a good hand to semi-bluff. It looks like we're so strong when we bet to 2 people on that board out of position, so I think we have a lot of fold equity. If someone has like 7-8, I think a lot of the time they're just going to be folding, just because we do look ridiculously strong. Same reason again, we want to get the fish in the pot, so we call the ace-9 and bet when check 2 because it's a dry board, and once the pre-flop aggressor checks, he doesn't have too many value hands that he's check calling, apart from maybe king-jack, but probably c-bet king-queen and ace-king most of the time. So we have fold equity from when betting. Limp again, and as you can see, no one raises this time. I think after the last time I limp raised, I'm going to get fewer people trying to isolate because they know it can happen again. And I limp again because I want to top down the pot. Nope, probably playing 6s. Nope. Yeah, I think only 100 deep. There's not much point in calling 6s there. A lot of the time it's going to be check folding. Ace jack suited, definitely playing. This guy makes it 4x because there's a guy posting. Usually a guy posting is a sign that it's a fish, but I think Sick Pasta is just a reg. I'm reasonably sure. And he will just be posting because he wants to get in as many pots with the fish. Looks like the fish won one actually. I might go check that out first. No, yeah, this was funny. Apologies to Golo Vores, but this was funny. Yeah, so we can just see the fish limp check raising, getting on the turn, and I've seen the river anyway, so. But yeah, as you can see, he had a lot of the outs on the turn. I did, whilst I was playing, I just checked it just for curiosity's sake, and I think the fish ends up having like 43% on the turn, which sucks for Golo Vores. You just want to see him have ace jack or something there, but the fish can sometimes have it. It's in this case being a ridiculous draw. Yeah, that happened. Here with the ace jack, we are definitely calling with top pair, top kicker. Expecting to be c-betting decent amount of his air, like ace kings and stuff, and definitely betting turn when check 2. We do minimize value loss against something like queens if he decides to check call queens there by betting small ourselves and then check him at the river. And we can still have floats here, so I imagine if he does have a weaker jack, he'll be check calling and check folding the river anyway. So all is fine. Could have seen myself play it, but deep out of position, even against a fish, a6 offsuit is difficult to play. We don't want to be making ridiculous plays to try and get pots with him. Imagine we're playing this, whatever happens. Could 3-bet, but I think calling's fine against such a sick player. And I imagine we're okay. Checking back's fine, I think. Actually, yeah, we have no equity. We only have backdoor. Flush. The backdoor straight's not really a thing because if we did hit our straight, it wouldn't be a very good one. Like 9-10 would come out, which would be a fortress straight to a queen as well. So that's not really a thing. So I prefer check back here. And bet when we pick up loads of the equities. Definitely playing 9-10 suited. Queens definitely playing. So you can see I'm getting quite a lot more ace-king high flops with the queens. So sick. Yeah, this point I was pretty happy. I was up about 23,000, which is just a shock dream come true. And I was playing quite well, so I wasn't considering leaving at any point. Here with King 9. It's obviously annoying this happens. The river. Sorry, I'll replay the hand. We limp again to try and get the fish in. This guy raises big, and we get a call from there. We check calling when there's no point check raising. It's the same thing as earlier. We're only ever getting in against better, and the ace counterfeits us, and he doesn't go for a value bet in the end, which I think is fine-ish. Yeah, it's fine. I think it's good to not value at the end. I think he's rarely getting called by worse. The guy that lost the 7-8 versus kings to the left, poor guy. And Nanonoko is replaced Wahasha. No, no, no. I don't want to say too much about it, but he obviously is a sicko. He's one of the best players. Blah 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 blah. But I do think he is exploitable in some spots. I'm not going to say which ones. I don't want to give away too much information. But as I don't think many people would benefit from how to play Nanonoko, and I do have stuff to lose from giving away stuff that would give me an edge against him. But yeah, like I said, he is sicko. He knows his way post flop just ridiculously well. And yeah, we're happy that we got position on him. Here with 3-4 suits, have no equity. We 3-bet the fish again, just with 300 deep now. So we're going to be 3-betting so much, and 3-4 suits is a hand that he just won't expect. Like if the board did come, say for instance, like 4-4 ace, and he has ace king, like he's never folding. And it's a hand that he wouldn't expect us to have, I think, being a fish. Go for the limp again, and when acid raises, there's not much we can do. I think it's a good raise by him if he's bluffing, and if he's not, then fair enough. It's just a thing. And it's broken again. Cool, we're back. Oh, alright, I'm back. And can't remember what I was saying, so I'm just gonna go with the next hand, which is apparently broken. That's cool. Nothing happening. There's probably something to be said about how I think the other players are going to be adjusting. I imagine they're also going to be making similar adjustments to me based on the fish, but I should also be aware that the players that were originally there, like under O, I think that might be actually, and Nanonoko as well, even though he wasn't there, I think they're definitely going to be exploiting the regs that are only there to exploit the fish. So and also there's something to be said about the fact that I have a deep stack at the moment. I'll get into this hand in a second. I think people will be less willing to try and mess around when I have a deep stack, as I think they have it in their mind that I'll play a lot differently. Now I'm winning a lot and play a lot looser with the aces here. It's annoying that I can't flat or slow play in any of these spots and try and get the fish in, but I can't because if I call, then Nano's 4-bet, then I might be able. Then the fish might call and the Mexican might call, and I don't want to take it 4 ways ever with aces. Rather get heads up and just stack Nano if he has kings or queens. But he snap folded, so they all be bluffing. And you can see that Nano was call 4-bet bluffing versus Mexican, as it is a good spot to call 4-bet bluff, to be fair. But he's going to be exploiting the players that are trying to exploit. Here with fold equity, it doesn't matter that we have second pair, it's quite vulnerable if we do have the best hand and we want to be able to take it down right now. And we do, especially when Mexican checks. So yeah, that's the thing. And even though in those spots I was running pretty good, just in the fact that I was just all the C bets were just making it, stuff like that. Here with 8s, I decided to check call the flop. Sorry, call the 3-bet out of position. I think that's almost standard. Maybe some people fold it, but I think it's fine. I check call the flop because it's again quite standard, and he can have overcards, he can have bluffs, he can have anything. We beat a lot of it. We only lose to queens, kings, aces, and jack X, and 10s and 9s, I guess. But I expect 10s and 9s. Sorry, I expect 10s and 9s will be we were just flatting pre instead of 3-betting. And on the river, I decided to turn my 8s into a bluff. I think even if he has an overpair here, it's so difficult for him to call because I have basically the bottom of my range, which means I should often be bluffing with it anyway. And all of the hands that I call with pre, like so many of them, have made something by the river that I also call on the flop with. So a flush I can have jack 10, I can have pocket jacks, I can have pocket 10s, I have pocket 7s, 6s, 4s, blah blah blah. And there aren't too many bluffs in my range as well, so I don't expect him to be calling too often with an overpair. Probably playing this, definitely playing this. We flop insane again, and yeah, this is the point where I was just running insanely good. Call Nano C-bet, we turn 2-pair with a flush draw, and yeah, no, obviously betting when check 2 for value, but nothing to see once he folds. And yeah, this is the point where I was running pretty pretty damn good. He reduces, decide to call, and once this happens, I think Acid, once he check calls the flop's going to have too many diamonds in his range that we can continue. So that's fine, we fold the straight and the 4 to a flush. I'm going to try and move this down a bit so other people can't see whether I win the pot or not. I think that's fine. Sorry if that went too far. Anyway, so 10-7 suited. We can notice now that the fish is gone. Here with Nano, I decided 3-bet. I think he was opening 100% of buttons at this point, so I want to be 3-betting quite liberally, and definitely c-betting on a low board when lots of the cards he peels with are going to be broadways and higher cards. So when the fish leaves, basically what happens when on the high stakes, as soon as the fish leaves, it kind of sucks, and it's one of the things I really dislike about poker. It's just the whole table breaks. And like, no pad enough, and there's now no bad player, or no awful player. And yeah, it's one of the worst things. That it means that we can't play consistent poker, and when that does happen, that means that fish are less inclined to sit down because there's not already a table that they can sit down on, and I just don't like it at all. I think if a few regs just carried on just battling out, you get so many more fish in the long run. But people will be bum hunters. This is the point where everyone had sat out apart from us 4, and Gilbert sat down. I'd never heard of Gilbert, but so I wasn't sure if it was a fish or not, but at this point, I'll explain the hand in a second. So I was ready to stay just in case he was a fish, and I knew I'd find out quickly. And here I decided to double barrel with a 6-8. I had lots of backdoors on the flop, and I turned my 6 into a bluff on the turn because it's still a semi-bluff hand. I can have 6s and 8s as outs now, and I think I fold them off a lot of gut shots that float the flop that I would have to check fold to at some other point. I think it's kind of good. And I find out, oh, what? He left. So everyone joined, and I imagine that means that Gilbert was a fish. But now he's gone. We check call here, and we have the best hand against Nano. Standard hand. Wait for exciting things to happen. Gilbert's back. Yeah, Gilbert. Such a Gilbert. I found out later on in the session from a friend who was railing me at the time that Gilbert had just won a Turbo W Coupe, which is like perfect for any kind of high stakes reg that, yeah, maybe a bit more of a fun player joining after just winning a big score. He'll feel like his bankroll is infinite if his bankroll was smaller than that before. So if he just won 140k, so I imagine losing 5k now and again in the first time he plays afterwards wouldn't feel too bad. We don't play that, don't play that, don't play that, don't play that. So yeah, at this point, once everyone joined again, when Gilbert was there, I was very confident he was a fish, a fun player, not a fish. 4-betting Nano again. I went with larger sizing. I've been experimenting with larger 4-bet sizing, and I kind of like it. It stops people from peeling, and for some reason recently people just love to peel 4-bets in and out positions. So to maximize fold equity, I've just been 4-betting bigger with my entire range. I'm not too worried about people knowing that, as they'll be able to work out themselves. Oh yeah, what, he's gone again? He loves leaving. Yeah, once he leaves, I imagine loads of the regs leave. I do know he comes back, so that's fine. Gilbert, yeah, Gilbert. Apologies if Gilbert is watching this. You were a fun player to play with, but you know, he's probably not watching this, so it's fine. We flopped really well. I decided not to get this in. I would get this in against a lot of regs, but against old Gilbert here, I don't have as much fold equity if he has a king. I don't think he's a lot of the more fun players are going to be folding something like King Jack here ever. So I'm just going to take my my 6 outs, my 5 outs, and my heart outs, and take it there. And he check calls. Once he leads and then check calls, I think almost always he has a flush draw. but just in case I'm wrong, he has like a king that he's playing tricky or something like that. I'm not value betting the river. And happy when the sorry. Happy when the river's not a heart. I don't know why it would have done if the river came like the ace of hearts or something. I'd be a bit confused about whether to bet or not. I probably would end up value cutting myself. But old Gilbert shows that he leads there, and I hadn't really made notes on anyone at the table apart from Gilbert. But I was testing here. It's another spot that I think is really good when playing against more fun players. It's when you have a weak showdown value hand like Ace Jack. Then we want to be checking back because so many more fun players love betting the turn. Once the flop is checked back, like with their entire range, they'll be betting it. And here, I decided I wanted to try and get value out of anything, like, you know, a weak ace or maybe pocket fours or fives or something. So I bet tiny, and he makes the standard hero call with 5 high. Well, technically he's playing the board, but you know, $187 there with I think I can safely say that's maximum value. He called that pretty quickly as well, which gave the impression that he wasn't very good. Here, flop the nuts, running goods. Can't complain. We don't get any action, but not complaining at all. I decided not to 3-bet king queen. I think we get 4-bet enough by nano because he has a very high 4-bet percentage. And I know this because I used to play him a lot on 2-5 Zoom. And he probably doesn't remember because he's playing like a gajillion tables or something. But I've stacked him like 6 or 7 times. So I'm really happy that I stacked a sicko. Something to get really excited about every time. It's like, I beat Nano Noko in a pot. But novelty wears off after a bit. So yeah, at this point I am something like 30,000 up, which is ludicrous and makes me very happy to think back to, and I haven't got too much to say about it, just extremely happy. Here Nano Noko peels a 4-bet against Gilbert. I imagine he would light a lot of the times, like 7-8 suited or something. Speaking of the devil, imagine we're playing this if Gilbert raises, not if many other people raise. We'll probably defend against Nano there as well. Actually, no, probably 3-bet against Nano for undisclosed reasons. With ace 10, I decided to go for the isolation play. I think that Sig Pastor here is going to be calling extremely wide, and I want to be at least having the pre-flop aggression with a hand like ace 10, which has reverse implied odds, so I can pot control if I want to on ace high boards. But against old Gilbert, heads up, which is perfect when we get top pair 1 second my flat. Okay, and back. So yeah, against Gilbert, we're going to be betting a lot more thinly for value. As we can see, he's been a massive calling station, and we could check back the flop because, like I said, he does bet turns a lot. But I think that there's more value in betting this time. I bet quite small just to keep in stuff like King Jack and Jack 10, which he's obviously getting the wrong odds for, but I can't imagine he's folding after seeing his hero call earlier. I check back the turn, pot controlling against any kind of flush that he may have, or a stronger ace, and then also when against fish, I love using the bet check bet line, so betting the flop, checking the turn, and betting the river line for value, as for some reason they just think that you never have it as soon as you check the turn, as I feel I don't know too much about stuff like pot control, so in their minds I'll never have an ace once I check the turn, against more fun players I mean. And he bets, and he merges, and he loses, and there's not too much to go into apart from the fact that he just rando bets the river with the marginal showdown value hand, and called a 3-bet out position with that, all of which I noted. Raising this on old Gilbert's blind, and just lucky we got the second pair against bottom pair, and still running pretty good. Here with ace queen, I think it's and boards is going to connect with his hands, his range too often, and c-betting doesn't seem too likely to get through, so I just check down, check back, and then folded to a turn bet, as not much of my range will have anything there, so there's no point in calling a turn. Here Queen 4 defend and get a ridiculous flop again against Nano, take it down. I think check raising there is by far the best. He can 3-bet bluff that flop a lot, so we can just 4-bet jam over the top. And we have good equity against everything. And this is the hand that you're never drawing dead against. Like the worst case scenario is that he has a set, and there's nothing, like even if he has a nut flush draw, we're ahead of that in equity. So those are hands that are very good getting on flops if you think there's other equity, like the fold equity if you 3-bet bluffs a lot. I imagine we don't raise, what was that, Jack 8 or something. Everything's being pretty slow. Okay, stop for a second. If anyone knows anything about Hold'em Manager and why that would be crashing so often, that would be useful to find out. But I'm not particularly bothered, especially when it's not happening during a hand. Yeah, imagine open ace jack. Lots of the I think almost all the time I'll be folding this against loads of regs, 8-handed under the gun, but with old Gilly but there is no chance of folding any kind of playable hand, and sick passer goes for a reasonably good squeeze spot. I imagine he has a value hand a lot of the time though, given that Gilbert's there and he's not folding too often. You know, might have been a bluff. Might have opened King 6, but probably not. Nothing big happened at least. Jack 10 I probably would have opened if Nano didn't. I wouldn't mind seeing myself 3-bet this actually. I guess I'd rather do it with other hands than Jack 10, just because I know Nano is out to get Gilbert quite a lot, and he's going to be opening very wide from there. Looks like we're losing. I guess Gilbert here, just calling him min 3-bet, and he hasn't done that before, so I imagine it's relatively strong, but I'm not planning to call on that kind of boards. I think we can't fold pre obviously because we're getting ridiculous odds, but I'm not expecting to do much unless I flop either top pair or 2-pair or something, just because I expect his range to be reasonably strong. Defending really wide against him there, but with ace high and no draw or anything, or pretty much no draw, then we're not going to do anything against Gilbert. We're basically just looking to get made hands against him. 3-bet Nano and C-bet on with a club draw, and it's another spot where I'm just running quite good, it's just that the C-bet just works, and a lot of the time he has something like ace-king there and it doesn't. But yeah, like I said, this was an insane session. Playing this? Nope. Definitely playing this. Could go for a 3-bet with Gilbert. We're not that deep, so I don't mind calling. Either one's fine, I think. Decided to turn my 6 into a bluff on the turn, just because I think once he checks the turn, he's going to be folding. I don't think he's going to have a 10 too often because he c-bet, and I think a lot of fish don't c-bet second pair. Sorry, a lot of fun players don't c-bet second pair. And when he doesn't bet the turn, I imagine he hasn't got a king, so I imagine we have a lot of fold equity when we bet. So even though we have the best hand loads of the time, there's more value in betting. Here with King 10, I think it's a good hand. We have the gut shot 2 overs and the backdoor heart draw to play against. And we check the turn here because I think as soon as we bet, it looks like we have 10 just like 100% of the time. So I would be betting here with Jack 10 and some 10x, maybe 10x that blocked hands that are more likely for him to check back. Something like 10-9 or 10-8 maybe, and going for a ridiculously small bet in the end, but I can still have 2 pairs and get paid off by a set or something. But there's not much I can do there. Could check the river again, but it's just so often that he's going to check back like 7-8 that there's might as well try and get some more bet out of him. But I don't think there's too much value to be got. When the flop went 4-way, it just, our ranges are so strong. Fun one here, I remember. Going on blind versus blind sucks to be Nano, except it just doesn't suck to be Nano Noko ever. So we're not feeling too bad that happened. I can see Mexicans doing quite well in this as well. Just going around the table. Sorry, we defend the queen deuce here. And I check raise the turn here, and I feel like I don't like it. I remember at the time I had a reason based on nano stats that I do not want to delve into too deeply, but I would not recommend that play with many people on that kind of board, so I'm not going to go into it. Yeah, just going around the table, I recognise Horvik to be a very good player who is on Tiltbook if anyone wants to follow him. And Mexican, I don't recognise too much. I'm reasonably sure he's a good player. Basically everyone on the table I recognise, but not to a massive extent. So I imagine a lot of them are only playing because Gilbert is playing. At this point it was getting quite late. I think it says at the top it was 5 AM at this point, and I've been up for a while, so I was getting a bit tired. But I did say earlier that it's probably better not to play when not in your A game, but I was feeling that I was still reasonably close to my A game because I was still just one tabling, and I'm used to playing a lot more tables, so being able to focus all of my attention on that one table made it a lot easier to fight past the tiredness. We get aces again. I think it's good to see about this board. The annoying thing is that Horvik and, oh my god, Johnny CTT are going to know that we're going to have a strong hand here so often, because good old Gilibert is in the hand as well. But because the main objective is to get value out of good old Gilly, we're going to be c-betting a lot of our value hands there, probably even King Queen there. Defend versus Nano. I decided to check. Sorry about the play noise. I decided to check the turn here to give Nano another chance, because if he does have, say, 10x or jack-x that he decides to just check back, then we will be able to get a bluff out of him. I think most of the time I bet the turn, just it's balance, and I think it's an okay. I would have been doing this based on his stats that I have, and go value on the end, just try and get value out of an under pair or ace high, but he does not oblige. I definitely see betting with jack 8. It's got the backdoor straight, and it's a low board which doesn't connect too much with his calling range. Connects more with our opening range, I guess. We flop a boat. That happened. And now we need to try and extract as much value as we can from good old Gilly. The good thing about it is that he's not really folding ever if we bet small. And we're always stacking him if he has an 8 or an overpair. But once he checks, it's quite annoying because I think he rarely has either of those things. So I was just going for ridiculously small value to try and get ace high to call. But I imagine he didn't even have that by the river. So even though we have a monster hand, I think betting small in this particular situation versus the fun player was a bit more prudent. I've got a few minutes left. I'll make this the last hand, or the next one maybe. We get aces again. And I don't want any comments about how good I ran. I know already, and I'm really happy about it, so it doesn't matter. I decided to check call based on Nate's stats. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's a very good hand to check call with on this board as well. It means that our check call range is uncapped, which means that he can't just barrel us off, bluff us off when we check call other hands. And also we have the diamonds, ace diamonds, so not backdoor, not flush draw, which means that there are basically no bad board runouts at all for our hand, apart from like 7-8 or something. So when we check call, we're going to see the turn more often than if we bet, and we want cards that would have more good runouts in our check calling range for those reasons. So if we're balancing, we want to have the diamond in our hand. I decide check call again, and he's betting, and it's quite fun because he can't really have anything. So like, there's a good chance he's bluffing because we have all the aces, and we have the flush draw blocker. So unless if he has a value hand, it's gonna have to be something like 7-8 diamonds, king queen of diamonds, and he goes for a big bet on the end. And obviously we're jamming with the boat, and he folded pretty quickly, so I imagine he was bluffing. I think he probably wasn't expecting us to turn up with that kind of hands, which is fun. It's good to mix it up. So we're up to 50k, so that's 38,000 profit, around that. Which I cannot say enough how happy I was at the time and how happy I am with this. Here with the 9s, I remember this. Good old Gilly, he's a calling station, so we're just going for 3 streets of value, obviously, with the 9s. And it's an annoying turn, it's an annoying river, and I made this river based on not the boards, but based on the timing of the player. And so now we have the decision whether we think we make the decision based on how often we think he has a jack and how often we think he's folding. And usually I'll check back against this kind of player because I don't think he's folding too often at all. But in the game, I noticed this as one tabling. It's very important in these kind of spots. He snap checked the river, and if he did have a jack, he may decide to check. But I don't think he would ever decide to snap check. I don't think fun players' thought capacity of the game is good enough that they'd be like, yes, jack, snap check, get him. They'd at least consider betting when they have the straight that's higher than the one on the board. So I decided to jam, and he decided to call with, after a bit of deliberation, with the old deuce 7. So that's a bad run out, but not ever complaining about this session, so whatever. I'll make this the last hand, so I don't know what happens here. Here with ace 5, I'm almost definitely peeling with any suited cards that I raise. It's good because Gilbert's in it and he calls so often as well, and Mexican and I are ridiculously deep, like 400 and a bit big steep. And this is the hand that makes the nuts a lot, and makes hands like this. I remember Mexican tanking for a long time about this before calling, and then I decided to go for 2/3 and then around 2/3 again, I think. And here I'm just trying to get called by ace king, ace queen, but the thing is, the most likely hands he has are, say, the ace x that's like ace 7 or something that's bluffing, or ace king, ace queen, or something like kings and queens. So I imagine kings and queens aren't calling too often, whichever sizing we go to, and I think we can still have a decent amount of bluffs. The thing is that we can have a 3 and he can't, for these reasons, is that we can open quite wide, so with 3s and ace 3 suited and stuff like that, and he can't 3-bet that wide because old Gilly here is in the hand. So if he did have pocket 3s, he wouldn't 3-bet because he just wants to flop a set against Gilly. And if he had ace 3 suited, he wouldn't 3-bet because he just wants to flop a flush or a flush draw against Gilly. And because he knows he's getting called so often by Gilly, then he's going to want to have more value hands, so that ace king, ace queen, kings, queens when he 3-bets. But he decided to tank fold the river, so I'm not sure what he had, probably kings or something. Maybe an ace. Yeah, I'll leave that as the last one, and I'll get back probably to the third and final part of the review in a bit. So it's been Charlie Carrel for Grips.com. Get stuck in.
Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Stack it up, cash it in, damn, I win again. Many friends come to play, cause I'm on the internet. Better yet, I flop the turn and take a chance upon the river. I'll bluff you with the 7-2 offsuit, whatever's clever, call you all in while your chip stacks falling. Better believe the dealer, cause the game just started. Don't know the rules, you bet it all and then you risk it. If you wanna learn it, you should go online and hit up Grips it. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Ever since a young cat, want a pocket stack with cash in the fast stack, crammed in the clam clip. Gotta get the it was harder than I thought. Then I got on Gripps.com, asking and got what I needed to beat him and get a stack in. Yeah, we get a stack in. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. Yeah, we get a stack in. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. The flops I be smashing, and pots I be blasting. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Gripps.com taught you how to get stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stacking. Yeah, we get a stack in. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. The flops I be smashing, and pots I be blasting. Gripps.com taught you how to get a stack in. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Gripps.com